Okay, good evening, and we're live. Welcome. Episode 10. Okay, we got to 10. Fantastic. It is episode 10, I think it is. I'm just looking at the feed. I'm just wondering why Seamus McWalter put best of luck, guys. Best of luck. What do you know that we don't know? What is planned? It's a bit of a creepy comment. You can explain that maybe later on. But anyway, welcome to Let's Talk About in the Sports Therapy Association Open Group. Thanks for joining us. If you do have any actually, I can put this in here now. See what I mean? It looks a bit weird, isn't it? We're just about to start a 45-minute show, and someone puts best of luck, guys. What do you know? What's he doing in there? Anyway, welcome. Yeah, if you've got any comments, if you're new, because a lot of new people are coming along now. It's fantastic to see people joining up, people celebrating after they've joined up, which is always great. So any questions you've got, put them in the comments feed, and you will appear on the screen. If you appear just as Facebook user, as always, then it means in theory you haven't clicked on the little link which is in the comments, which is basically to just give permission to Facebook that you're happy for this software to show your name and profile. If you scroll in the comments, you'll see at some point I've put a link down there saying how to get your name and photo appear during Tuesday's Let's Talk. In fact, look at that. Okay, so if you look at that link in the comments, then it'll give you a link. Click on it, maybe sign out of Facebook and then again, and all your names should appear in full glory. Boom, there we are. Right, tonight then, before I announce tonight's guest, well, you know, it's Dr. Claire Minshull, which we're very, very excited about. But thanks, as always, last week to Anna Maria Mazzieri, who gave a fantastically informative chat and discussion about the importance of the subjective part of any assessment. It should be on YouTube soon if it's not now. Yeah, fantastic discussion. It was a load of great information in there. And something, again, a bit like Paul Coker, and like both of the guests, I'm sure it'll happen with Dr. Claire Minshull as well tonight. We're going to have to get these people back because 45 minutes just isn't long enough. A lot of these guests will be coming back. I've received emails and I'm taking note of it to maybe focus on one particular part of the conversation to amplify and open it up. Now you've met these people anyway. Right, so tonight's guest is, as I say, Dr. Claire Minshull. I'm biased, obviously, but as far as I can see, making fantastic positive waves with anything to do with strength and conditioning across social media, has some fantastic online courses, which I'm looking forward to asking about. I'm sure some people in here in the room have been on Claire's courses because they are so heavily recommended. There's some coming up, which we'll talk about as well. If you have had any positive experiences, well, if you had any negative experiences, Claire's got fantastically broad shoulders, much broader than mine, so she can take anything on the gym. So do feel to share anything in here. I'm sure it's all going to be positive anyway. That's what the comments are for. And as always, when this discussion is over, then keep filling out those comments, any questions you have. Claire is very active on social media, so I'm sure she'll be happy to come back and answer any questions she can't do during the course of this show. So yeah, without further ado, I want to try and make tonight about you guys asking questions. I'm going to obviously ask Claire about her past and where she's come from, what she's doing now, how she's got there. It's an interesting story, which I've heard before, but I really want you guys to hear it as well. But then I really want to open up the floor. We're talking about individualizing strength and conditioning programs for rehab. Okay, because I get the sensation that a lot of people know, particularly in this group, about the research and the positive effect of strength and conditioning, how important it is as part of a rehab program. But there's always this danger, isn't there, of doing a course, having the textbook, and then just reading out the textbook and telling people what to do in chapter 2, giving them a printout, photocopying a page. And what I hope to happen tonight is we'll go past that stage and be able to, thanks to Claire's help, start knowing how to individualize these programs and get positive results. There we go. Right, so 3-second countdown. Let's bring up Dr. Claire Minshull. There we go.
Hey, hello.
How you doing?
Just waiting for the torrent of negative comments.
Yeah, well, they're already mounting up in the comments. There's a few there. Thanks so much for joining us.
Oh, pleasure.
Thank you very much.
You're looking... Always great to chat to you. And STA is obviously an amazing organisation. So really happy to be here.
Well, thank you very much. Like I said, the reason I said that about comments is I know that quite a few people in the room have done your courses, so I'm keen for them to share their experiences and what they found out of your course. But anyway, yeah, so here we are. Like I said, you probably heard downstairs because I heard you laughing, but we are going to try and put you on a spot today for questions. So I'm happy for people, as long as it stays within it. Exactly. So it really is. Hit her with whatever you got, people. Questions. This is your chance now. But before we do that, for you guys to start thinking, let's talk about, guys, who's in the room. Buonasera, Senorina, buonasera. Anna Maria is in the house, talking of you. How are you doing? Has it grown? No, we're not talking about beards yet. Anna Maria, nice to see you. Don't say anything to me, actually. You really hurt me last week, and mental scars are there forever. Facebook user, the reason I can't see your name on this particular software, other people can, is because maybe you need to hit that link. It's your first time. So maybe if you haven't got time to go to the link, just say your name so I can know who you are. But in future, there's a little link in the comments. But thanks for joining us, first time user. Sharon is in the house. How are you doing? Mark Nusi is back again. It's true. What did you get, Mark? What did Gary send you for being here 10 out of 10 times?
Oh, was a surprise.
There was a huge. Did you not hear about it?
Oh, didn't it get delivered on the flatbread or something?
It's well. I hear, yeah. And postage cost of sending it in the post. It's Mark. If you have got it, then maybe you could, somehow it's probably parked outdoors. But yeah, give us a little screenshot or something of it. Ryan's here. Ryan's been singing the praises of STA. Huge. He deserves something. Thanks, Ryan, for sharing so much about the STA. It's great to see his social media. What have you put? Love the shows these past couple of months. Keep up the great work. I found it useful and truly enjoying the experience. Brilliant, Ryan. Nice to know. Thank you very much for sharing. Oh, Mark, talking of Mark Noosa, here he is again. My Tuesday nights will never be the same. Let's get something in my eye. Hold up, a bit of dust. There we are. Thank you. It's very emotional. Thanks, guys, for sharing the love. And keep it going. Share it with your friends. Let's get as many people as possible in here so it doesn't become just an echo chamber. Right. Boom. Dr. Claire Minshull.
Hello.
Tell us about where you came from. For people who aren't aware of you and people who maybe are going to watch the recording, how did you get to where you are today? What's the backstory?
It's a long one, so I'll get your coffee.
Give you 4 minutes.
No, I'm joking. It's I guess a little bit convoluted, but basically I started out my interest in sport, and I went to university, did a sports degree, didn't know what I wanted to be. Basically all, because it was a long time ago, all that was really around at that time in terms of jobs was either teaching or coaching. There might have even been just possibly one exercise physiologist job in the country at that time. So I went straight on to do a PhD because I found kinesiology and absolutely fell in love with it. And then through my PhD, I specialized in neuromuscular physiology. So that's how muscles are, how they activate, how they produce contraction, but not just that, the latency of it, the timing of it, the ability to generate force quickly and not quickly. And I was in a clinical environment as well. So I was so blessed to be a part of a multidisciplinary team in an orthopedic hospital center of excellence. So blessed, in fact, that I didn't realize it wasn't the norm. So when I came out of that, it was quite a shock. So I, part of my PhD, I designed a 6-month Acl Rehabilitation Programme that's focused principally on enhancing aspects of neuromuscular performance. So from then, I went into academia and continued the research, but from a sports medicine perspective. And on a consultancy level, so lots of elite athletes, set up a sports medicine degree program at Nottingham Trent University, had PhD students, master students, so kind of pushing the research questions, if you like, but always with a clinical emphasis. So if it wasn't focused on performance, mainly it was about rehabilitation, injury prevention, trying to understand this model of injury risk and dynamic joint stability from this neuromuscular perspective. So then I took up a post and led a collaboration between the University of Edinburgh, Queen Margaret University, and the Trauma and Orthopaedic Department in the Royal Infirmary of Edinburgh, that was basically charged with trying to enhance research into rehabilitation and physiotherapy in slightly different populations. So whereas previously I was looking at maybe ACLs, ACIs, meniscal stuff, this was with major joint replacement surgeries and traumatic hip fracture. that's where really it highlighted to me just how much we weren't en masse translating some simple aspects of what we understand from a sports performance and strength and conditioning perspective into physiotherapeutic and rehabilitative and prehabilitative interventions in populations that probably could benefit most from those. So from that point, I did that for 2 years and then set up Get Back to Sport. So I can disseminate now my knowledge more widely than just the academic community. So I still publish, and I'm still research active. So I'm still principal researcher at the Robert Jones and Agnes Hunt Orthopaedic Hospital. So the Centre of Excellence that, if you like, I grew up in. But through my courses now, I'm able to share my knowledge more widely with people just like who are listening now. You guys who apply those principles to patients. So rather than me just sharing it with the academic community or me being a one-on-one with the patient, I'm able to share it with you guys. And that has a far bigger impact, which really warms me, warms my heart. If I can help in some way in what you're doing, then that's really what I want to achieve. So I'll continue to be research active now. And I run Get Back to Sport, and I'm really fortunate when we don't have COVID to travel internationally to do these courses. And also we've got the online course that's going to be launching this month as well. So a potted history. I don't know if that made sense. I've also been an athlete as well, and a patient and that kind of thing. So yeah,
I think two things happen when people, even myself, listen to you. Sometimes people will think, oh my God, she's done so much and I have done so little. I think that's one sensation that people can have. And again, we've talked rather extensively about imposter syndrome and stuff. But also the other half, if you spin it around and look at the positive side and put a different pair of glasses, it shows how much you can achieve and do if you've just got the interest and you just kind of pursue things, which is what you've done, really, isn't it?
You know? Really is. And if you want to talk about imposter syndrome, you could say that, I've often had that where I'm entering your arena. So previously I was an academic. I literally started on at school, a conveyor, went right the way through, didn't get off until PhD. Thought, F that, I've had enough of this. Went traveling for a year, came back, got back into academia, started teaching, and then I'm like, there's got to be a better way to deliver and put this research, this information into therapy. So I jump into therapy, and then I'm like, well, you're the clinicians, what am I doing here? So
interesting. No, valid points. That's great. Yeah, so I mean, I only say that because I can imagine some people out there, although my comment stream has gone kind of very quiet at the moment. It hasn't frozen. All I can see is Mark Newsy. Anyway, I hope you are thinking some questions. But yeah, just in case anyone out there is thinking, oh, I thought I did great doing this course and here I am. But the doors are open. It doesn't take more than just a passion and consistency to do PhD. I mean, I'm talking like I've done a PhD, which I haven't, but it can be done, kind of, and you're a living testament to that if you follow your passions and you continue doing things. When you set up the website, which I've obviously got on the screen, evidence-based strength and conditioning for therapists, you kind of mentioned that there was a gap where the research wasn't filtering down, or there was kind of like misconceptions or myths and stuff. So when you set this up, did you feel that there was this gap, and why is that the case? Why was it missing?
So there's a gaping hole, a massive gaping hole between. It's getting smaller, and we're starting to fill that in. But between therapy, rehabilitation, the clinical environment, and what we know as bog standard stuff in sport performance literature, set up Get Back to Sport actually because people used to call me up and say, particularly following sports surgeries and then rehabilitation, they didn't feel ready to get back to sport. And that's because the rehabilitation that they've been given or the opportunities that they had were insufficient for them to feel confident to get back to sport. And particularly if we think about ACL here, the provision on the NHS at that time was just, and still, I suppose still is a little bit, it's getting better, but sporadic in terms of the quality of what you could get. So where I was, it was research led and evidence based, and we were doing the research and learning, then feeding that into the rehab, whereas other places perhaps weren't well as resourced. So it's called Get Back to Sport because people would ring me up and go, how can I get back to sport? However, the remit of that goes far beyond sport, and I'm far more passionate now about serving those populations that are probably needing it more, like the older populations competing against the effects of sarcopenia. You've got a particular passion of mine is osteoarthritis, and just applying some really basic principles to conditioning, to do any conditioning actually, and not have this, as we perhaps might touch on, this blanket approach, one size fits all, and without progression integrated into it. So there's a lot I could say on that, but certainly the one of the key things that kind of alarm bell that just kept ringing in my head, and I can't be right. Surely we know this better in the therapy literature. We know this better, but at that time we didn't. So that systematic review that I did in 2017 just illustrated that in terms of how well we can transition and understand knowledge of just basic strength training in, for example, osteoarthritis care, just kind of didn't stand up to scrutiny. So it's a gaping hole, one that I think there's a lot more conversation about now, which is great, which means that ultimately those patients are going to receive better, more targeted, and hopefully more individualized care and conditioning.
Great. So what do you think? I'm interested. I haven't done your course, I'm sorry, but I've talked to a lot of people who have, and they've all got this same kind of look of wow, Eureka on their faces. But what do you think? I'm interested. What are some of the kind of Eureka moments that people have on your course where obviously this hole is exposed and things which they presumed were true or had learned from other sources turn out not to be quite so true?
Yeah. Okay. So I think there's a few, and I love those moments. Not from a gloating perspective, because as I said, it makes me feel good that I can help people. One is how we structure resistance conditioning to best optimize strength gain. So that higher load, lower repetitions, but actually working to failure to maybe 5 repetitions. And that's equally as valid with an elite athlete as it is with a postmenopausal osteoporotic woman, for example, because it's relative to their individual capability, not the absolute load that you're lifting. So what you and I and she would lift will be completely different. How we can start to reduce that feeling of overwhelm. When you first see a patient, you've often got a million things you probably need to focus on and rehabilitate, and particularly if they're in let's say a longer program. You've got to get range of motion back and pain under control, but after that you need to make them stronger, don't you, and make them more powerful. And then if they were going back to activities, what are the risks and demands of those activities, and are they an elite athlete, and then when should they be able to change direction at speed and overcome, and it can be completely overwhelming. So if we look and kind of take a step back and think about a periodized approach and try and segment those things that are important and have a separate focus for those things, and then have a separate program for those in the right time frame. We don't need to do all things all at once and effectively. We can start to do 1 or 2 things very effectively, and often more quickly. So kind of periodization. And then certainly in the in-person courses, we often have, it sounds a bit silly, but a deadlift competition in after the second day, because often people arrive, not everybody, but many people have never done heavy strength training before. So when you pick up an Olympic bar off the floor, it feels bloody heavy. It's 20 kilos. And, some people arrive with, I can't do that. And they're like, yes, you can. You definitely can. And by the end of it, multiple times we've got people who've never resistance trained before picking off the floor their own body weight, deadlifting. And applying some principles of kind of internal shouting and priming the system. And that really, not only makes them feel brilliant and me feel brilliant, but it makes people think about what the assumptions they make of their patients and their patients' capabilities. And sometimes we might be thinking that we're doing them a disservice because they're capable of less, when in actual fact they're capable of far more. Now, delivered in the right way and clinically appropriate and progressive, but it gives you a whole new language and almost kinesthetic experience about what that represents. And then if in some way you can deliver just an element of that to your patients, then that can really enhance the effectiveness of, for example, the strength conditioning that you're trying to do, or rehab.
It's fascinating. I mean, it's something which I haven't actually thought of until now, but so you were saying that a lot of therapists arrive, and when you get to this deadlift competition, they're actually made to feel quite uncomfortable, because you're basically highlighting the fact that, look, you're supposed to be giving your clients working up to these exercises, and yet you've got barriers yourself which you've yet to overcome. So how are you supposed to help a client overcome them if you haven't overcome them yourself? You must have to quite delicately put that. You must have to prime them yourself quite carefully before giving them that.
It takes a couple of days, yeah.
Yeah, before you hit them with that.
And I don't instill that they must do this. It's yet to be something that they don't want to do, if that makes double negative.
Yeah.
People want to do it because we build up through the 2 days the knowledge, the theory, the practical, and that progressive approach over those 2 days to people start to feel confident. And as you and I have discussed before, you need to make, regardless who that person is, being in that environment, if you've never been in it before, whether it be in a gym or a physio gym or wherever it is, it can be quite intimidating. So to get the best out of people, you need to make them feel comfortable and confident and supported, which as I said, all of my courses are, and that's what it's all about. It's a peer learning environment that I can facilitate, and people just, it's so nice to see people exceed their own expectations, because I know how that feels themselves, because I've experienced it, but I also know what that can do through actually loads of multiple emails and communications back that I've got from people, what it can do for their patients as well. Just having that extra knowledge. So I don't ever seek to make people feel silly or inadequate. I just try and facilitate that journey.
So in a way, your courses are also giving the tools to therapists to then be able to deal with, okay, they're not going to be a therapist coming through the door, but somebody who may be in a similar situation where they've never picked up a bar before, they've got these barriers and things. And thanks to you and doing your course, then you're going to have the tools now to be able to break that person in gently and give them the confidence and get them to lifting what they need to lift in order to get better.
Yeah. And how it feels as well. So that feeling of, and it might not be in a gym environment. It might not be a deadlift or a big squat with a massive barbell. It might be standing up out of the chair with a backpack loaded with 2-litre bottles of water, whatever that individual's relative capability is. But that feeling, if you've never done it before, it's really difficult to teach. And even if you don't want to do it for yourself and go and train in the gym for strength, it's super important to experience that if you're trying to teach it to somebody, because if you don't know what it feels like, it's really difficult to describe, and then it's really difficult to give coaching points and information to people in the way that they understand if you don't properly understand it and have felt it yourself. So it's just a really another way of enhancing your practice to try and convey that to people.
Did you think this is exposing something which in theory should have been introduced in an earlier stage in their own training? Are you filling a gap which you think, well, why haven't you guys been shown this before? How have you got to where you've got to now, calling yourself a sports therapist, and yet nowhere in the process have you been exposed to this before?
Yeah, I mean, it's and again, I don't apportion blame to those individuals at all, because sports therapists, physiotherapists, sports rehabilitators, anybody that deals with exercise prescription, maybe slightly better now, depending on what level of exercise prescription you go on to, it's still, you've got to overcome this legacy of what's been taught before. And that I know from having developed degree programs, it takes even just the time it takes to develop a program and to develop the continuity between level 1, 2, 3, 4, or undergraduate 1 through to masters is a really timely, involved process that needs validation, of course. It needs the most up-to-date research. It needs people that are passionate in that in that area. So we're trying to overcome that now. So as you leave the degree programs, then you have to go out and search for those opportunities to upskill yourself in those areas. So I feel for people, and if they recognize it off the bat, then that's amazing. I do teach on some master's programs, and I've been lucky enough to contribute to the formal education of in some therapy programs within universities, but en masse, I think you probably agree with me, it's still not a core thread throughout most themes and streams of education yet. Or if it is, the way in which it's taught, we've still got hesitancy in that kind of conservative approach, because we're not quite at the forefront, or even not quite forefront, middle front of the evidence base in some programs. Some are better than others.
Well, to a certain extent, long may it continue that way, because it opens up the road for people like you. It's great. You've got a constant stream of people. But yeah, there definitely seems to be a void. I know as soon as I get people moving from sports massage to sports therapy, then bam, you've got to start learning about strength and conditioning. You've got to start being able to prescribe exercises. It's something which they probably haven't been exposed to yet. A lot of them think they're going to learn new manual therapy techniques in order to make that person better. And that's what I need. I'm missing these great techniques. I've got to use my elbows to be able to make these people better, because that's kind of what they're suggested on the earlier massage courses. So I come along, it's like, well, not really. There's going to be far less use of hands on this course probably than on your last course. So but yeah, that's very interesting. I can't actually, but the reason I'm looking down here is I've got my phone here because my comments are frozen on the screen. But there are questions here. I mean, Gary, we've kind of covered what Gary brought up before, the idea that some therapists do maybe have a lack of knowledge and a bit of a fear about actually embarking on the strength and conditioning. So we've kind of covered that. Lack of space and equipment is interesting, because you've already mentioned that. I mean, you've got to make sure you're dealing. This is where we start talking about working with a person in front of you. It's all very well saying you need to go to a gym, you need to do this, but unless you've done your subjective, like we were talking about last week, you need to know whether that person is going to go into a gym, and whether you need to force them into a gym, or you just open up a can of worms. Maybe they're better off doing it at home or in their garden or something. So I guess that's a case of, again, going back to the subjective and knowing, working with a person in front of you instead of just reading out of a book and telling them what they need to know to do.
Yeah, absolutely. I call it, it's like if you imagine a Venn diagram of 3 circles, conditioning efficacy, and that's the sweet spot in the middle. Hopefully soon that the new Elsevier's sports medicine textbook will be published. But I wrote a chapter in that called conditioning efficacy, and one of the key components of that is knowing the performance demands and injury risks of that individual. So whether it be sport, or whether it be you want to walk your dog on unstable ground most days and be able to do that relatively pain-free. It's individualized to what that person wants to be able to achieve, the baseline status at which they're embarking on this journey, and the risks of, if you like, further injury and threat that those environments propose, if you like. And once you've got those, because clearly a rehab program for a 25-year-old elite footballer is not going to be the same absolutely in absolute terms as it is for that 6-year-old woman that does want to walk 4 miles a day with her dog cross country and navigate stiles. But in terms of the loading upon the joints and the intensity of the rehab program, it could be quite similar, but delivered in a different way.
Yeah, great. Okay, right. We've got some questions coming in, Claire. So you ready? I reckon I've probably got about 1, 2, 3. It's probably about 4 questions here. So I'm going to challenge you to make sure your answer is maximum of 2 minutes.
Oh, shite. Go on then.
Right, here we go. Question for Claire. Claire Hunter, I apologise, I can't bring your comment up on screen. I will have a go at the live TV team later on. But here's the question. So Claire says, how do you encourage client motivation for them to understand the long-term benefits?
Okay, so I'm really, really fortunate in that I get to work with a multidisciplinary team and a psychologist. And the best thing is understand their why. There's a blog on my site, getbacktosport.com, in the strength and conditioning blog, which describes this. You understand a person's why for doing something, you're far better able to then try and tap into their motivations and their barriers to engaging into a program than if you just, not that I'd suggest you would do, but blunder on and give them a didactic prescription. You understand what their why is. Is it because they want to pick up their grandkids, they want to get back to sport? And then you can start to engage in almost like a motivational interviewing technique with them, but involve them in the process and understand their motivations, understand their barriers, and then start a logistic process of trying to work out where exercise fits in their life.
Brilliant. That was 1 minute 58 seconds. That's fantastic. Well done. Wow. You've done this before. Gary came back and he's actually having a chat with Claire, which I said is what happens if I don't look down at the comments enough, they start talking amongst themselves. But he said, do you find older clients less receptive? Is that a generalization or
what?
Well, in terms of yeah, well,
no,
Gary, no, but I mean in terms of being able to give them motivation and understand the benefits of what you're giving them.
No, definitely not. But that said, I probably do see a biased sample. So the people that I see are either have self-selected into research studies, or they are private patients. So they have they're a bit further down that line of behavior change than possibly some people who have been told that they need to go somewhere for some reason. But in terms of just discrimination on age, no, everybody's got their motivations and their barriers and their reasons for why, and also for why not. So I don't find generally age is a discriminating factor.
Okay, fine. Good answer. Ryan has come up with a question. I'll read it out, Ryan. Sorry again, Ryan, I can't bring it up on the screen. Technology. But anyway, Ryan Smith says, for those massage therapists struggling with the concept of not being hands-on, or maybe not being so much hands-on, how would you encourage them to diversify into other modalities such as strength and conditioning? So I suppose it's, yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I guess if it's, forgive me, I don't know whether or not you're asking how you should start or whether or not I'm suggesting that everybody should who's a massage therapist. Clearly, you've got your own interests, that is some of which, you know, if you're not listening to this, clearly you're not interested. So fair one. But
I think it's like a massage therapist who wants to move more into the sports therapy type of things where you can work with injuries, and you've taken on board that might mean putting less emphasis on the manual therapy side of things, which has its place for especially for recovery and pain, dealing with pain. But if you've taken on board, right, I want to actually help people get out of this injury state, I need to get some S&C. What do you think the first steps for them to do, apart from obviously going on one of your courses? But do you get people in your courses who are moving from just massage into,
Totally, yeah. It's a mixed bag of people on my courses. The common thread is people that are passionate about rehabilitation and helping people to get back to doing what they want to do. So we have mainly physiotherapists. Then the next tier down, lots of sports therapists and sports rehabilitators, massage therapists, and then there's really forward-thinking personal trainers, and then one or two other people that are, and chiropractors and osteos actually as well. So a real mixed bag of people with a shared passion. So if you don't know where to start, then I'd say just improve your baseline knowledge on what that might be. I try in my blog to convey in non-jargon terms, some of these things about strength and conditioning, where it has a place in therapy and rehabilitation. So there's 50 now posts on my site, so I'd say that might be a decent starting point. And I know that what I do is evidence-based and research informed. So if you do Google stuff, just make sure that the source of information is credible, because there's a lot of people out there with opinions, and those people with opinions, some are great and some are really spot on, and some are unfortunately not. And the internet doesn't discriminate between them. It just fires up the rankings, those ones that just are based on popularity, not based on evidence. You might want to buy a book or two. Just I'd say, first of all, figure out where it fits in your practice, and what do you want to do with it, and also talk to other people. So building a network around you of people who, maybe you do this already, that you can refer to, and or they refer to you. People have maybe been down that route. As I said, there's loads of people that I interact with that have been through that process. And in the online course, we've got a Facebook group now so we've had 2 course launches. So there's about 250 people that have done the course so far, just on 2 intakes. We have a Facebook group of that community, and it's a shared dialogue from that point of encouragement and support as well. So if you can find, I mean, absolutely more than welcome to come onto the course. I'll be delighted. But if you don't feel that's for you right now, can you find something, some forum that offers something similar, where you can ask questions and feel comfortable in asking questions and not being called out as stupid? And LinkedIn has got a couple of decent groups as well. So try and search out some of those communities.
Yeah, that's a great question, Ryan. I mean, I'm so excited when I work with massage therapists who are moving into more sports therapy.
Yeah.
Because I think personally, if you've done massage, one of the huge things it does give you is empathy. It teaches you how to get on with people. If you're going to make a living out of putting your hands on people and getting their confidence and listening, massage therapists listen an awful lot, because they're just naturally, most people want to spend a living rubbing other people, and actually they're givers. They're people who just want to help people get out of pain. But it's a massive thing. A lot of people just hate the idea. A lot of physios go follow the physiotherapy route, and they hand out work to massage therapists because in their build up, whatever it is, their experiences, they don't like the idea of actually spending 45 minutes rubbing somebody else. They think it's a horrible idea. So I think it's amazing. That's why it's my bias. I did massage therapy myself, but I think you get that done, it just creates such a wonderful empathy and an ability to listen to people. So if you do start building up and becoming a sports therapist and moving into other things, it's a fantastic foundation, I think, to make you able to listen to people and get that subjective.
Yeah, well. Agreed. So, yeah.
What about, sometimes I get questions, people saying, oh, do I need to do a personal training qualification? I worry that sometimes it's almost as if people do something which is going to cause a total career change, and they've got to watch out what they do, because some of these personal training qualifications cost an arm and a leg.
And some can be done in about 2 or 3 days, can't they, with your eyes
closed?
closed?
So it's looking for the evidence. I suppose you use the evidence word, didn't you? You've got to find something that's backed by a little bit of peer reviews and stuff, which is what you do. Let's not beat around the bush. But anyway, okay, so there you go. It's a great question, Ryan. Thank you for that. And I know, I'm all so much in favour of massage therapists who are looking to go to the next stage of their career and are excited about it. And this is the person to talk to. There you go. There's my bias. Here, ladies and gentlemen. And like you say, your blog as well is written in such a friendly way that you're not going to get totally either driven away or scared. You can actually read and get a load of information. As we say always, you don't have to pay for a lot of this information. You can find it online. And then let's move on. So we got Sarah Humphreys. Oh, here we go. Interesting question. Sarah Humphreys, again, apologies I can't bring you up, but Sarah Humphreys says, can you recommend any exercise prescription software that would be useful? That's a good question.
No.
That was 6 seconds. I always find it tricky. I've always had this it's not even a love-hate relationship. I've always had this hate relationship with giving exercises this is me personally, I'm sorry if everyone does do it, but I've never been able to use the software things where you print off photos or exercises from this kind of thing and give it to people, because it's always different. They never show what you really need to know about the exercise. It turns it very much into a 2D thing. I've always, well, since phones were around anyway, preferred to film the person doing the exercise and give that to them on their own phone, because these 2D software bits, they always seem to lack for me. It's just another piece of paper, take it home and do this.
Ahead of the
You know,
time, weren't you then?
I never liked it. It just doesn't make sense to me. I don't know where it came from, but
I
am I missing something? Are
I
there
can
some good
understand and
software programs?
empathise, and my answer of no is not because I don't believe that it exists. I'm yet to see it. It needs to be individualised. You need to understand what you're trying to, or the software needs to understand what you're trying to achieve with somebody. So if you prescribe a strength training program, and absolutely you want to improve muscle strength in that individual, and you go to this piece of software and they go, oh, here's I don't know, a hamstring curl holding onto the back of a chair, and do this until the cows come home. Seriously, I mean, I'm being a little bit
No,
but the individualization, the relativization of intensity, and the progression is missing in many of the bog standard approaches. Now, some of them might be absolutely entirely appropriate for that acute period of rehab. We're getting over pain. You need to reestablish range of motion and confidence, and get the muscles working a little bit more, and firing in coordination and synchronously, which is fine. But we do need to progress beyond that, and that requires a real specificity of intervention. And in my blogs and in my courses, I talk about prioritizing the consideration of muscle strength, because often we forget about that. Traditionally, we're taught that we need to look at muscle endurance first. But really what we need, strength is the fuel tank, it's your capacity. And if that's lacking, if that's empty, then your ability to stabilize joints, to live a long, healthy life, all cause mortality is related to strength, and so is pain, and thinking about dynamic joint stability, which I said before, and your ability to progress other indices of performance like power, it's all compromised if we're not thinking about what, this fuel tank of muscle strength is. So therefore, we need to prioritize and think that of that first. And if we're thinking about muscle strength in that individual, is giving them a green TheraBand, telling them to tie it to their chair leg and do a knee extension 20 times going to be effective? Or could you give them something that's better, like in that individual, I don't know, thinking off the top of my head here, a step up on the bottom 2 steps with a weighted backpack, which causes them to fail at 5 repetitions because it's too hard. That's going to be far more effective than doing that other thing, which might, if you're lucky, have a muscle endurance training response, and that will be lost very quickly because there's no progression built in. So we need to think about that individual's capabilities, the specificity of the intervention, what is it that you're trying to achieve with them, and then tailor the exercise prescription for them. Now, if those exercise prescription softwares exist which enable you to take those things and those almost generate an algorithm, or give that patient, that client, the autonomy to make those decisions themselves, then great. But as I said, I'm yet to see one, and I'm not saying they don't exist, but it's far better, I think, what you were saying about give people a couple of exercises that they understand at the right intensity and give them the knowledge about how to progress themselves. You're going to be far more effective than downloading an app that they're not familiar with a smartphone, and you're not sure about, they're not sure what they're doing, and they're just doing this, and do you know what I mean? It all becomes a little bit more fluffy. So the time spent of them and your time spent is going to be far more effective, is my view anyway.
There we go. In the comments, they're talking about, and I haven't used this bit of software, so maybe this bit of software has covered everything we've talked about, but Rehab My Patients is getting a shout out, and apparently there is discounts for STA users. So okay. if Rehab My Patient, yeah, if they're listening, then I love you guys. Yeah, what are you going to say, Claire?
As I've heard of it, but forgive me, as I said, I've not looked into it, so I don't take that as a blanket dissing of them. So I say that with if those things are embedded within that software and it's achieving what you want to achieve at those specific timeframes with those patients, then brilliant.
I think as always, it's how you use the tool, isn't it? It's how you use it. But I always think there's a worry, especially with younger therapists, of thinking the job's done once you've selected the right exercises, especially if the software makes it very clever to select 3 and then it prints out an order and has the client's name. And it's all kind of like printed out. Wow, this looks great. It's got my logo at the top, phone number at the bottom. There you go. There's your exercises. It misses out all of those intricate details of, there's always this kind of, we like to say that we make it simple, give people simple exercises, only 3. But I find that the information you need to give to that person needs to take home with them, the education, so they do those 3 exercises, not necessarily the technique of the exercise perfectly, but like you say, taking it to the right level, understanding why they're doing it, and giving them the tools to actually want to do it and keep doing it. Because we know that a lot of people just, especially with a bit of paper, they just stop after 3 days, don't they? And they don't bother anymore. So I think that's the danger. Get a bit of paper. If they've got a photo, an image of themselves doing it, which they can look at on their phone. And the great thing about phones, and forgive me if I'm telling people to suck eggs, but I love using the phone because it's on that person's phone. So you don't have to worry about, you're not filming it on yours. You haven't got to worry about data protection or anything. It's on their phone. And then, of course, whilst they're doing the exercise, you can talk and do your own talk over. Like notice that when you're doing this, they go back and they've got little you there listening to like a coach, giving them, I mean, I think it's an amazing thing. I'm amazed if not everyone does it. But that's, again, that works for me.
And it comes back to one of the first questions, forgive me, was it Claire that asked me about,
she's got another great one soon as well.
Trying to get people to engage. It's understanding that why and trying to establish that buy-in and what will generate that buy-in. So we talked about 3 exercises. Why 3 and not 12 or 1? So for example, I'm just working with a client right now, an elite marathon runner in LA, who came to me after we last spoke. Run Track
Live. Oh, good.
That's
good to
brilliant. And we're doing a strength training program with him. Logistics have dictated that because we're in lockdown, we've got no access to gyms. However, he's got a neighbor with 2 Bowflex adjustable dumbbells. So I've given him 3 exercises purely because 1, it's not an overload. He's never done strength training before in his life. And number 2, it's not an overload. In terms of just overwhelming to think about what to do. Although I probably should have realized he's an elite runner. So his program is rammed, you're looking for when do I have time to eat and breathe. And then logistics have dictated we've got these 2 dumbbells. How can we use them effectively to generate a strength overload? So it's 3 exercises, hamstring, quads to start with, and also to generate, after a couple of weeks, we're starting to get to that level of dose that I want to achieve to elicit the response. So between 25 to 45 repetitions per muscle group per week at the 5 repetition maximum level, and that we're achieving that over those 3 exercises. Now that probably will ramp up a little bit as he becomes more habituated and more trained, but it's just 3 because it was just 3. And what we could do with the equipment that we've got, it might have been 2, it might be 4. And excuse me, when the gym reopens, it might turn into 2 compound movements, like a squat and a deadlift at the right intensity, but the volume that we need. It's what that person is going to do, and they're happy doing.
Brilliant. And also, I think if you manage to get that client to buy in and understand why they're doing the exercises, and they've got 3 exercises and they do them, then the future times you prescribe that is going to take you 2 seconds because they're already sold the idea. It's not, I think a lot of time is wasted when you introduce 5 new exercises and you've got to sell them again why we're doing this and how to do it and the technique and everything, and you're just wasting a whole session. Whereas if they know why they're doing it, they're lifting heavy stuff not to fatigue, I don't like using that word, to failure, then exactly.
Good,
and then no, it's great. I hope that's helped a lot of people out there. Geez, I think I've got my comments back. Look at this. Right, let's move in.
Hello,
Claire Claire's got another great question. Claire is on fire tonight, and I'm glad
Great
that my
name. Great
for like
name.
is that what it is? It's like a
Yeah,
Claire
of course.
telepathy going on. I like this question a lot. Let's bring it up. Oh, good. I can bring this on screen. Claire Hunter says, Claire Hunter's a dog. Look at that. Wonderful. Claire's fantastic questions coming from a little dog. How would you approach a conflict of exercise prescription if your client sees a variety of professions as well as yourself, e.g.
Okay.
PT, chiro, etc.? Good question, Claire.
Okay, so what's the end goal of the exercise prescription and the patient, the client that you're seeing? So what are you working towards? Is it a performance-based goal? Is it to get them out of pain? Do they want to maintain a level of cardiovascular fitness, but also try and rehab a rotator cuff injury? You know, what is it? And then once you've established that, so, you know, if you're, arguably you could position yourself at the top of that hierarchy, and you're, you know, they've come to see you for a reason. What have they come to see you for? And you're going to give them your very best advice and instruction in terms of exercise prescription. You can explain it to your client or your patient in a way that makes sense to them and their complaint or their goals, you know, the reason for them coming to see you. So why you're suggesting that they need to do this. And then also for maybe the short term, because we're doing this, you probably need to back off on this just for a short period of time because of X, Y, and Z. So for example, the runner that I just mentioned, he's started to do some strength training, never done it before. He's encountered a whole world of pain he's never experienced before in terms of DOMS. So in anticipation of that, I suggested that maybe just back off a little bit on the running for those 2 weeks. So maybe if you can possibly lose a session, just lose a session and think about it as adaptation and a new form of not recovery, but as I said, adaptation and conditioning. And it might take a bit of counselling. So dependent upon the situation that you're in, speak to your client and your patient in those terms. And then if you know those other individuals, or if you're happy to liaise with those other individuals, then I'd encourage you to do so. And, you know, that could also be beneficial for business. As I always recommend when I speak to people and do courses, try and build up this network of allied practitioners for cross-referral. It's a great way to generate business between people, and that individual feels important. You've got a continuity of care rather than, you know, being in conflict with one another. Now, of course, you will possibly get situations whereby there is one person who maybe thinks that what they do is the right way, and it will always be the right way, and there's no room for anything else, in which case, you know, it's ultimately your client or your patient that makes that decision. But if you can deliver that information in a sensible way that makes sense to them and their injury and their recovery profile, and give them maybe a time frame for that, then they'll make their own decision. You empower them, if you like, to make that decision.
There's so much in there. I think you gave at least 6 bullet points which people need to be writing down, and probably people aren't doing in your answer. Out of interest, have you had to talk to his running coach at all? Because I can imagine how that conversation went down if it's an old-time running coach and you're saying, "Oh, just take out one of your sessions." Yeah.
So we're in a good period right now because there's no performance goals we need to work towards, right?
Makes sense. Yeah.
So it's a habit that needs to be overcome, and a reassurance that they're not going to lose loads of performance or cardiovascular fitness, or we give a time frame by which we can recoup that. So the first conversations are quite tentative. The second conversations we start to think about a periodization approach, and then the third conversations, you know, he has, you know, he took an extra rest day off his own back the other week, which I thought was amazing. You know, he's listening to his body. It was so sore from a good perspective, because he's also, you'll know it as well as a runner and an individual athlete. If you're chasing times, you're chasing performance, you usually do more than you're told to do. So yeah, he exposed himself to a whole world of pain that he wasn't exposed to before. But if you put it in the frame of reference that people are familiar with and don't expect the change overnight, then if you can, it's almost like a bargaining and a discussion process with that person, and give them the information that you're working off, and ultimately they'll choose whether or not to do it.
Excellent. And yeah. I think that because the way our industry is at the moment, it has been for a long time, when you do turn everything around to show that you are working with that person and not on them, that you are taking into account what their goals are, what their time frame is, what their life is like, when you're asking the right questions, I think, like you said, Claire, I mean, that will turn them around to put you on top of their triangle. And you might find that the people at the bottom start kind of disappearing anyway and don't I mean, a lot of therapists out there, especially who are seeing clients regularly, are doing things to the client, and the client's going in and they're lying down, boom, boom, boom's being done for 50 minutes, they pay and they go. And it's just the questions aren't being asked, they're not being asked like at the end, it's like, how did that feel? You feel better? Yeah, it's great, thanks, bye, see you next week. Yeah, okay, I'll buy that. So there's a huge buy-in, isn't there, when you treat the person like you're saying, rather than
yeah. And you'll get a better reputation for that. You'll get a better buy-in from your patient or client. And if you think about it from excuse me, I've got a frog in my throat. Don't know why. If you're thinking about one from the patient perspective, you're putting them first, you want them to get better. And you were saying before about the empathy that you have as a massage therapist, and you really want to help them, then that ultimately is definitely doing that. And from a business perspective, you've got a little bit of fear in that you need to get repeat business to keep yourself going. Absolutely. But you want something, or I personally want a reputation that is about putting that person first, being credible, and not somebody that's after a quick buck and a quick fix, and you understand people, and that will do more for your business as well. And then the third thing I said about developing a referral network with other therapists, other allied health practitioners, other exercise therapists. Again, some people see that as a threat, but for me, I don't know everything. I really don't know everything. And I feel uncomfortable in situations where I'm asked things that I don't know. So I will fess up. My opinion is this, but really I don't know. So what I'd like to do, with your blessing, is involve so-and-so. And then again, you're expanding your network. If you have a confidence in yourself and a confidence in what you don't know, and involve other people, yeah, you might get your fingers burnt every now and again, but ultimately it's a better business model than trying to keep everything for yourself, because you establish yourself as the expert and somebody who's really credible and puts you as an individual, you feel like you're really important. So you'll keep coming back to that person.
Brilliant. And a lot of the feedback I've had from other people who've done your course is that sometimes courses either forget about the business model and don't like to mention it because it's an ugly word, the fact you're making money of this. And other ones seem to concentrate on the fact, like, look, guys, what we say in here stays in here. But let's face it, we're in this for the money. So this is what you've got to do if you want to come back. And there's not a middle ground. But the feedback I have had from your courses and other people's that I get on with is there is a business model, but it's like ethical. It's like it makes people feel still, because people get into this trade because they want to help other people. That's why we do it. And sometimes we lose path when we think you can't make any money at the same time as helping people. It's kind of like you have one or the other. Yeah. But I think thanks to people like yourself and other people in the industry, you realize that you can do, like you say, from getting a good reputation, not relying on someone to book in 8 times, whatever the issue is. They're going to tell their friends, that totally. I see so-and-so.
Yeah. And I've learned that as well, so I stepped out of academia and had to learn how to operate in this environment as well. I'm so sorry for coughing so much.
That's okay. Get a bit emotional.
Yeah, I know. It's like,
have you read Gary's comment? Is that the way you're getting all kind of, you're welling up? Gary's best moments
you've
in
seen
time
it.
was,
My comments have restarted as well.
yeah,
Now.
I'm feeling a little bit delicate as well. But
God.
yeah, meeting you 2 years ago was a highlight of his life. So I
Same.
understand why you're getting a bit choked up, but thanks, Gary.
No, I mean there is this conflict, isn't there, in a particularly in the environments where you or business where you want to try and make people better, feel better, do better, help them recover. There's a conflict between that and making money. Now, you can't do it for free and you can't do it at a reduced cost because you need to live, right? You also need to value the service that you offer, and that can be a hard journey as well. And I'm, as I said, I talk to a lot of people, and I've been through this journey myself as well. And there's a lot of self-doubt, and there's said that the imposter syndrome before. And ultimately, if you think about where you come from as an individual, if you can back yourself that you'll always do the best for that person, you ain't going to go far wrong, and that's worth money rather than just trying to get people in and out of the clinic and get them to come back and keep coming back and keep giving you money. Now, there is absolutely a time and a place for block bookings, and you think, well, the continuity of care here or the program's going to require probably at least this. Don't, that's your best judgment. Don't feel bad for doing that and offering that up, and that person, that patient will determine whether or not that's right for them. But as long as you feel comfortable in doing that, and it's for the right reasons, which I'm sure everybody here is thinking, then try and just quash that self-doubt a little bit. You're helping people rather than, I don't know, selling spoons, or although we need spoons, but you're doing an amazing thing for people. There's a lot of charlatans out there selling a lot of shit that just does not help, and there's a whole lot of marketing horribleness that goes with that. So yeah, you're not that.
Fantastic. Right, it's already 9:04. Tell us about courses you've got. Obviously, COVID-19 has rather rudely got in the way and stopped a lot of face-to-face courses, but you've got some online stuff going on.
Sure, yeah. So we're hopeful that some of the courses from maybe October, including the Run Chat Live, can run that are in person. But certainly the Strength and Conditioning for Therapists online course is launching for the third time at the middle of this month. So the enrollment opens on the 19th of August. So I'm truly blown away each time. This is a third time it'll be open. The first and the second time we've got over 100 people. We've had 27 different countries represented, therapists from across the globe. It's amazing. It's a 6-week implementation program. So I offer you a guided implementation with support sessions. So you get me live, you can catch up if you're not in the same time zone. And you've got lifetime access to this course as well. So you can keep coming back time and time and time again. And as I said, there's a Facebook group for a private group for everybody that has done this course. And it's so supportive. You've got people chatting on in your comments box. It's shared learning. So often a lot of these online courses miss that peer-to-peer interaction and shared practice. So we have that there. And that's where I show up to do the live sessions. And on top of that, you've got an exercise library. So a comprehensive video exercise library of resistance exercise for every joint in the body, which is also accessible for the lifetime, for your lifetime, and some bonus content there as well about assessing performance. So there's absolutely shed loads in there. And if you go onto my site and look on the online courses, you've got an opportunity for priority registration. So if you sign up to receive notification, you'll actually get an email on the 10th of August which offers you priority notification to enroll, and you'll get a bonus for that. So if you enroll before it goes live for the rest of the world, you get then the opportunity to talk to me live at the end, and we'll go through it. I'll give you an individualized feedback on your exercise prescription, which is a thing that we work towards at the end of the course. So this periodized approach to enhancing strength performance and muscular performance in a particular patient profile that you've selected. So we will set up a live Zoom or coaching call. So you get that only if you register through that link, and you'll get that email on the 10th. But yeah, otherwise it goes live on the 19th, and the implementation program starts the beginning of September. But this time we're going to let everybody start whenever they wish. So you can go as quick or as slow as you want. If you want to wait for the beginning of September, you can follow that guided process, or indeed you can just crack on as soon as you enroll. So yeah, I'm really, really excited. Every time this launches, it's so thrilling. I'm hoping it's going to be the same this year with COVID, and everybody's even more enthused for online stuff. But yeah, it's really interactive as well.
Brilliant. But we'll make sure the links to all of that get put in the STA group. Fantastic, Claire. I think, well, yeah, Ryan sums it up nicely, and I love it. I just love the way you smile when you're talking about it. I bet you're rubbish at poker, I imagine, because you just I'm just saying that. I doubt, because your inner feeling just comes out when you talk, you can see. So yeah, Ryan, I think you've summed it up for all of us. The passion you've got for the industry and that you put into all your courses and everything every time we speak to you is amazing. So thanks, Claire. It's amazing.
You. It's my pleasure.
Very kind of you. So there you go, people. We'll make sure that links to that is, like Claire says, there is so much out there, a myriad of courses that people feel, oh, should I do this or this or this? But I'm hoping that one of the advantages of the STA is we will, I mean, it's not so much we're biased, but we will try and funnel down all of the courses out there and give you a choice based on what you want to achieve. And Gary's always willing. He's at the end of the phone always, 24 hours a day. But Gary will support you in helping guide you towards what course might be best for you. But you can be guaranteed that if we do put something in, then we know it's from somebody like Claire, and it's going to be evidence-based. And we will guide you as to what course will suit your needs. But hopefully a lot of you have now met Claire and you know what she offers. So Claire, thank you so much for opening your eyes.
My pleasure. And hi to everybody that's I've just seen my comments or your comments have just started scrolling.
Oh no, there's something weird going on.
Hi to everyone that has done a course with me, and thank you, Ryan. That's a very nice thing to say. So okay. Yeah, my pleasure.
Right, Claire, I'm going to chuck you down to the lobby for a sec just to say goodbye to everybody. And we've got a few we've got a few competition winners and stuff, so I won't bore you with that. But if you can stick around, then I'll come and say thanks to you in a couple of minutes. All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Claire Minshull. There we go. Fantastic. Yeah, those of you who know Claire, I don't need to tell you. I mean, you know already. But if you haven't met Claire before, had the chance to see her live, then hopefully this has given you a taste of what is offered. Such a fantastic resource for our industry, and such a nice person as well. You can see it shines through. So I hope that's introduced you to something else which will be useful and to think about as you model your future and make decisions. Particularly for the massage therapists, I think, who are looking to work more with people who are injured. It's always weird, isn't it, when you learn the massage? I have to teach a massage course where basically the number one rule is you're not allowed to work on injured tissue. You can only work with, what do they call it? They use another word which basically says it's not injured, it's just tired, or maybe a little bit of DOMS and stuff. And it's always weird, but if you want to take that plunge into actually working with people who are suffering from some kind of injury or pain which needs solving, then yeah, I think Claire's course is, depending on obviously you, but something to look into. Right, before I forget then, I've seen in the comments here, let's just put this on the screen just in case you haven't seen. Competition winners, let's get rid of my name, we don't need that, you know who I am. Competition winners, free membership, James Cottrell, well done. Russell Hawks, well done. Yeah, well done, people, for winning this competition. Geraldine Charleston, anyone else wishing to take advantage of STA membership can use the code Let's Talk 25 before Friday for 25% discount from all price points. There you go. Well done, you guys. Alfie Tatnell wins the Flow Mini Massage Gun. I saw that going around. They cost an arm and a leg. So well done, Alfie Tatnell. Looks like you've got your hands on something interesting to try. Email Gary at thesta.co.uk. Fantastic, congratulations to you, Alfie. And competition winners free membership Oh no, has that come up twice? Is it? I think it's come up twice for some reason. Right, people. Thank you very much for joining us. Gary also says here, can't wait to see Claire in Lincoln in October. 5 STA members, oh my, 5 TSD members attending Lincoln University seminars. So there you go. Hopefully these things will happen in October. I do hope so. Claire is going to be a speaker at the Run Chat Live conference, my Run Chat Live conference in October 29th, 30th. We've now, basically, I can't get my 3 international speakers out of the States and here. So they're going to be joining us live on the big screen. So they'll still be involved. It'll still be a live presentation, none of this recorded stuff. And then no, it will be live with mistakes and the full beauty of human nature. And also they'll be joining in the Q&As by having, it was quite cool actually, because hopefully in my mind, there'll be 7 speakers from the UK on the stage, and behind them, like something out of some science fiction program or some Queen video, will be the 3 of them, Matt Fitzgerald, Boof, and Alice Sanvito, which is amazing. And also, Kevin, Mags, also the 3 of them behind, like something out of Superman, the gods. So I'm thinking it'll work quite well as always. I'm also looking into getting, and this is big if you've got any Spanish friends or friends in South America. I'm also, because I did a Spanish presentation the other day for the university in Chile, I'm looking at getting Spanish interpreter to translate all of the speakers as well live. Because one who worked with the university, I'm going to talk to them to see. I think that would be amazing as well, but I'll keep you tuned for that. So if you are working or you've been to South America with any friends, Spanish is spoken more than English in the world, so it seems silly not to. It's the 2nd most spoken language. So that's exciting. But yeah, Claire will be speaking at the Run Chat Live conference, which is very exciting. If COVID-19 all blows it out, it'll just be 100% virtual. But hopefully I'm praying that it will be Run Chat Live and not Run Chat Online Live in Brighton. And as always, promo code STA20 if you want to get 20% discount. If it can't be live, then the tickets will be converted to virtual and you will get the money refunded if you paid more than what a virtual ticket costs. But hopefully it can be live. Right, I think that's everything I need to say. Blum, blum, blum. Thanks very much for joining us. I'm not quite sure who is next week. I'm really not sure, but it'll be someone great. I know we've got a few things lined up. I have yet to put it concrete. So, but do join us again. We will be here every Tuesday at 8 p.m. And I thank you as always for joining us. It's not going to be Anna. Anna was in the room, then she disappeared. I think that was last week. But we will have somebody talking about something interesting. So on behalf of myself and Dr. Claire Minshull, thank you very much for joining us. And yeah, we'll see you next week. Take care.